Ah yes, Year 3 Season 3, Operation Grim Sky. Easily in the top 10 most controversial seasons in Siege, and is definitely a big reason for this. That involves the topic of this video. Hereford Base. For those that didn't play before this season, Hereford Base used to be a completely different map. Hereford Base was very similar to Plane, to be honest. It was just completely unbalanced, but balance doesn't necessarily always equal fun. This may have actually been the most unbalanced map in the game, as it had 4 floors with only 1 staircase. And that made it really hard for defenders to roam. It was, well, basically impossible to roam, to be honest. You pretty much just had to stay on site. That's when Operation Grim Sky came along and it stole it away. I'm so sick of this reworked Hereford Base, except I'm actually not, because I'm of the very small minority that actually really like the reworked Hereford Base. I really never understood the hate that this map got, to be honest, other than the fact that it took away the original. Looking up some opinions, it seems people hate it mostly because it's too big, the top floor being trash, which I do actually really agree with, and the colour scheme being bland, boring and rainy. Okay, you people need to understand this is literally just what the UK is. This map is literally so accurate to the weather of the UK. It's just British weather, that's what it is. Old Hereford though, I mean yeah, it's got that cloudy sky, looks like it's gonna rain, but new Hereford Base makes it even more accurate by actually having the rain there. Anyway, I've talked about my opinions on Hereford Base long enough now. That's not the point of this video. Maybe I'll make a separate video on that in the future, but we really should get on with the actual topic of this video. Although one thing I should mention before we begin, the reworked footage for this map was recorded on a previous version of Siege rather than the current one, because Hereford Base isn't actually playable in the game at the moment, and that's because of the attack on Hereford event that happened many months ago now. Hereford Base basically got destroyed canonically, and so it is no more. Maybe that means we'll be getting a new rework for this map in the future though. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, on to the video. Old Hereford Base hasn't been playable in the game for 7 years now, so my memory on it isn't that great. What I am really surprised by though, is how little actually did change in some areas. Because I thought this map was literally completely changed from top to bottom. Every single room different, layout completely redone, but that's actually not the case. We can use the spawn location maps here just to compare a bit on what actually changed on the exterior. Now nothing too major changed on the exterior, but I think seeing the building here between both versions is actually pretty cool. It did extend out a little bit on the west, east and south sides, although these aren't as noticeable on the maps here. The more noticeable one is the north side, which gained a lot of extra space. And to think that this building right here is 4 floors, I think this map might be a little bit too big actually. Whilst none of the spawn points have changed here, 2 of them have changed name. The Spitfire Courtyard, originally being just called the Parking, and the Control Tower, which used to be the Training Course. I don't really care about those though. Shooting Range is the only one I ever spawned at, to be honest, in the old Hereford and in the new Hereford. I don't think I ever spawned at any of those other 2 spawn points once. It's really cool to see how similar but how different this is at the same time. Like, this place has mostly kept the same look and layout, but this platform in front, for instance, you had to walk up the stairs before, whilst nowadays there's a little mound that leads up to it instead, as it's partially buried. And then there's also just some completely random unnecessary changes, like this wall now existing in the rework, which completely blocks access from this side to that shooting range platform. I mean, you can still get to the shooting range platform bit by, well, just walking onto it, so I don't really understand the point of this wall, to be honest. Also, I miss these mannequins. Like, why were they removed from the rework? What did they do? They did not deserve to be cut. At least I don't think any of them have survived into the rework. Then here's a view at the building from the observation ramp in both versions. And yeah, the building definitely does look completely different. I do see what people mean about the aesthetics here, to be fair. This old building style was beautiful. To be honest, it was unique to this map. You wouldn't find this kind of building in any other map. Whilst nowadays it being just brick walls, yeah, I mean that's in pretty much every single map in the game now. So I do wish they kept the original building style, but I like the rain, come on, I love the rain! This east side of the map has overall kept basically the same layout across both versions. Although the aesthetics of course are different. And the aesthetics being different is especially the case when we get to the Spitfire courtyard. As I mentioned before, this used to just be called parking, and it used to be a parking area for cars, whilst now it is still a parking area but for Spitfires instead. There was this warehouse here as well which had a ladder going up to it. Didn't know this was a thing. As I say, I pretty much never spawned at this spawn point to be honest, but with this ladder you could get on top of the roof. This warehouse is still a thing in the rework, although much bigger, but the ladder is gone. However, you can actually rappel onto this building, so you can still get up here. And then for the control tower spawn point, this tower is climbable in both versions. Here's a little comparison of the building from this side. Now that's the most notable things on the exterior. We'll talk about the things closer to the building when we get into the building. We gotta get to the roof first though, and these roofs are so pointless, but they're so cool. Like, why would you literally ever want to come up here? I don't get it, but like, they are so cool though. This roof in the rework especially is just so British. And look at that British landscape, mate. I could really go for a cup of tea out there in it. I think the best place to start with the interior is right through the front door, onto the first floor. Now this front door into the building is already quite different between both versions. In the original we had it in the middle of the north wall, whilst in the rework it's still in the north wall, but it's on, well, it's like, you know, to the side now. You can see it from the video. You get what I mean, right? If you remember before though, I said that the north side of the building was extended out quite a lot. So this bit where I'm standing right now in the original is actually indoors now in the rework. And that's why this particular part here, right next to the front door, is completely different between both versions, because this actually used to be outdoors. When we get to this hallway part of the building though, that's when the similarities between the versions start to show. This door frame right here is basically where that original front door would have been. Even these first doors on the left and right are in basically the exact same positions. Let's go left first and have a little look at the piano room, which used to be called the piano lounge. This is a great example of a room that really didn't change a lot. I mean, of course you've got the aesthetic changes, furniture moving around, breachable walls being added or removed, but you know, the general layout of the room has stayed the same. The only layout change really is this east part of the room, which used to be outside originally. This window here never used to exist as well, so you would think this room would be harder to defend considering that's another entry point now into this room. That's not really the case, to be fair, and that's mostly because of this window on the north wall. Nowadays, attackers can't really do anything with this window. They can look through it a little bit from outside, but can get barely any angles other than that back corner, to be honest. As this window leads to the barn, which is an enclosed outdoor area, you can't actually rappel up to this window either, because there's a roof right above it. Attackers can't go through this window at all from outside, so defenders don't really need to worry about this one as much. Barn though wasn't a thing in the original, we just had this little area down here that had stairs going down to it. This area wasn't enclosed at all, so attackers could already get a lot more angles through this window. But not only that, they can actually rappel up to this window in the original as well. So this is another entry point for the attackers, which doesn't exist in the rework. And now for the final change to the piano room, a bit of a boring one I'm afraid. That being the breachable walls. There never used to be one that led into the main hallway. And the entire south wall used to be breachable. It pretty much still is in the rework, but even around the door frame used to be breachable in the original. This did happen in quite a lot of the older maps. Now let's move on to the dining room, which again, pretty much the exact same layout, but just very small changes. Small changes though don't necessarily mean that they didn't have a big difference to how the room was played. The most minor change though is the door leading back into the hallway, because this one used to be a double door rather than a single door. Then this window on the east wall never used to be here. This actually used to be a set of breachable walls instead. That change definitely makes the room a bit harder to defend, but there's other changes here that balance that out a bit more. For instance, that new window existing in the piano room now, so you could easily defend this dining room window from that piano room window. And then also, this inner wall was extended out a lot more in the rework. This wall was a thing in the original, but it was just a little baby wall instead. Thankfully it grew up a bit in the rework though, overall giving a lot more cover in the room. And then there's also the hatches. There did used to be a hatch in the ceiling of this room, which doesn't exist anymore, but then a new hatch was actually added in the floor, which leads into the basement. Of course, we'll save the biggest change till last though, which is the new room, the prep area, which connects directly to the dining room on the south wall. This prep area never used to be a thing. In fact, the south wall of the dining room used to just be the exterior wall. This prep area also has two breachable walls that lead directly outside. Of course, these weren't a thing in the original either, because this prep area wasn't a thing. So why is this prep area so important? Well, it connects directly to the kitchen as well. So that's just another route to go from the kitchen to the dining room, and from the dining room to the kitchen. As before, you used to only be able to get to it by cutting through the hallway. This is still a thing though, both rooms do still connect directly to the hallway. But just like with the dining room, the kitchen also used to have a double door connecting to that hallway, whilst now it's been changed to a single door. Now out of the rooms we've covered so far, this is definitely the one that's changed the most. Everything in here is just completely different, to be honest. There did used to be a hatch in the floor and the ceiling in this room. The one in the floor is completely gone now, whilst the one in the ceiling was moved to the back corner where it used to be more central in the room. We used to have these two breachable walls here as well, which led to a ladder, which then led down into the basement. We'll talk more about this ladder very soon, but where this ladder used to be would be about here where I'm standing right now. But before we take a look at the last change in the kitchen, let's talk about the corridor, or hallway, or whatever you want to call it. In the rework, these are split into two different rooms, those being the kitchen entrance and the main hallway. There's also a door that defenders can barricade, separating these two rooms. In the original, that's not really the case though. Instead, this whole thing is just the same room, called Corridor 1. I know what you're thinking, that is such a creative name. So in the original here, there wasn't actually a door you could barricade within the corridor. So what about this main hallway part that leads off to the west in the rework? What did that used to be in the original? Well, that did still actually used to be a hallway, a very narrow one in fact, called the garage corridor. The first difference between these being the fact that the entrance to it is barricadable. There's no door here that you can barricade in the rework though, and it's all just the main hallway. The other change is to do with the kitchen, because there actually used to be another kitchen door along this hallway or corridor. Like, what is actually the difference between a corridor and a hallway? I mean, so aren't they literally just the same thing? Whatever, anyway. There did actually used to be a kitchen door here. This one was completely removed though. In fact, there's not even a breachable wall here anymore. You do still have 2 breachable walls along here leading into the kitchen, but this entire wall used to be breachable. Now if we go through the next door of this main hallway, we will be in the main hallway again. I don't know why this room is still called the main hallway, but whatever. As you can see, there is some stairs here. But if you remember at the start of the video, I was saying how old Hereford Base only had 1 set of stairs. And that is exactly right. This set here didn't used to exist in old Hereford Base. Instead, when going through this door in old Hereford, we would be in the garage. But the garage is still a thing in the rework, it's just the next room along, after this other part of the main hallway. The building was extended to the west, so the garage was able to be expanded. I love how in the original the garage was just shipping containers. It looked so cool. This is honestly the room I remember the most on the map. Other than the aesthetics completely changing, the room overall being bigger, and the extra main hallway extension going into the garage, not a lot actually changed with this room, to be fair. I mean, we still got the breachable wall here. We still got the window in the west wall. The main thing that changed in this room really was the removal of the ladder that led down into the basement. Because yes, this ladder didn't just move, it is just straight up gone. It doesn't exist on the map anymore. When we get down to the basement, I'll show you where that ladder roughly would have came out. But we do have a hatch in the floor in the garage now, which never used to be a thing in the original. But it would have been pointless having a hatch here in the original anyway, as underneath this particular part of the garage was nothingness. There was just straight up nothing here. Now we've just got one more room left to cover on the first floor, that being the living room, which used to be called the TV room. Again, not really a lot of change in this room, to be fair. The only notable changes really being that 2 of the breachable walls leading to that garage hallway were removed, then a new breachable wall was added on the west wall, which leads to those new stairs. This west wall used to be the exterior wall of the building, so there were no breachable walls here originally. And the final change, which definitely impacted this room the most, was the removal of the window on the north wall. It's now been replaced by a set of breachable walls in the rework. As I've mentioned many times now, the north side of the building was extended out in the rework. So in the original, this north wall was actually the exterior wall, and this window led directly outside. But now with the new extension in the rework, these breachable walls lead into the new foyer instead. The removal of this window definitely makes this room a lot more defendable now. This hatch also exists in both rooms in the exact same place. We'll get to this hatch a bit later though when we get to the basement, which speaking of, we'll head down to the basement right now. I will warn you though, from here on, the similarities between both versions of the map start getting less and less. The first floor was definitely the most similar between both versions. Already when we walk down the stairs, we can see quite a lot of difference between both versions. Oh god, where do I even start with this? Well, let's start off with the room that really didn't change much at all. That being the workshop, which used to be called the briefing room. I never realized that this room basically didn't change, to be honest. I don't know how I didn't, because I used this room quite often in both versions, but it just never clicked to me for some reason. One thing that is different though is the hatch in the ceiling. this hatch being the one that's in the floor of the dining room. There never used to be a hatch in the ceiling in the original. Now that we're on the topic of these basement rooms, let's properly check out this east tunnel. For a start, it used to be called the basement entrance, and this east tunnel part hasn't really changed much at all. We've even got these two breachable walls here in the exact same place as before. The tunnel never used to continue on to the south though, all the way to the southeast side of the building, acting as another entrance to this tunnel. Instead, in the original, this actually used to just be a brick wall right next to the entrance door of the workshop. That's that part of the basement covered, so now let's move back to the main hallway of the basement, which used to be called the corridor. What is with all this corridor and hallway switching all the time? I'm getting sick of it! This doesn't even look anything like a corridor. I guess the next best room to check would be the barrel storage, which used to be the lockers. It looks completely different, but it's really not that different. I mean, you still got the breachable walls in the same place that lead to the workshop and the east tunnel. And you still got an exterior breachable wall on the north side, although it's a bit offset now. And this wall in the original was interesting. It looked normal from inside, but when you break it open, you'll realize that it's actually halfway up the wall on the outside, which is kind of strange, but kind of cool to be honest. I don't think this kind of thing exists in any other map. You could even vault up here from the inside if you break the wall open enough. We briefly talked about where these two breachable walls lead to when we were discussing that window in the piano room. The reworked one leads to a new enclosed area called the barn. The fact that the ceiling above the barn here was breachable definitely makes this spot quite hard to attack from. In the original though, this is again just called the basement entrance. It's still just the same section as the east tunnel. There's then this extra part here in the barrel storage, which never used to be in the lockers. This bit used to be in the armory, pretty much just this little square bit in front of the big entrance door to the armory. We haven't quite finished with the changes to the barrel storage yet though. The reworked version has an entirely breachable ceiling other than that new little corner. The original lockers though didn't have a breachable ceiling at all. The original lockers also used to be a lot more open than the barrel storage, as there never used to be a wall and door separating the hallway from the barrel storage. Now it's time to talk about another room that I really do remember from this original Hereford, which is the armory. I assume there must have been a secure area or hostage location here, because yeah, I do remember defending this room a lot. In fact, I even remember the strat I used for this room, which was using old Tachenka in this corner and defending both entrances from here. I even remember doing this with the very old Tachenka who didn't even have the shield on the gun at the time. I just love Tachenka. He's not that bad, come on. So what room is this in the reworked version? Well, it would be the brewery, even though these two rooms literally have zero similarities between them. Literally the only thing that's the same is the hatch placement in the ceiling. So I guess judging by this hatch, considering it's in the exact same place in both versions, we can kind of make out where everything lines up between both versions here. Although again, as I say, there's like literally zero similarities between these two rooms. Even the entry doors to this room are completely different. There's no door anymore in the northeast corner, as that space is now part of the barrel storage instead. The main entry door is now along this south wall. where in the main hallway, you kind of have this little section that goes out to the west, where you have entry doors that go to both the brewery and fermentation chamber. Then the other entry door in the armory used to lead to the maintenance area. This entry door is now gone though, and instead it's been replaced by a set of breachable walls. The second entry door is now along the west wall, which would be about here in the armory. This west wall was originally the border of the basement, so there never used to be any rooms beyond here. So what room is beyond here now? The good old generator room, which also has that new set of stairs. The generator room also has that new hatch in the floor that's in the garage. And it also has the new west tunnel, which didn't exist in the original. So let's backtrack a bit to the original maintenance area. What room has this turned into then? That would be the fermentation chamber, which again, not really any similarities between these two rooms to be honest. Not even the shape is really the same between both versions. The entry doors to the main hallway is at least kind of in a similar place, although it's now in that little area off to the west of the main hallway instead of the door just being along the east wall. And then there's another entry door which connects to that generator room. This original maintenance area though did have that ladder that led to the garage, so that would have been in this room as well. Of course, the ladder isn't here anymore though, but it would have been roughly about here. Heading back to the main hallway, we actually have this little gap by the stairs that we can hide in, which funnily enough has been in both versions. I loved hiding here. Well, that's the basement done. This video is probably already about the same length as my other videos in this series, and we're only just halfway through the building. Woohoo! It's fine though, I'm sure the second floor is gonna give us a break. Oh my god, what is this? Okay, again, I don't know where the hell to start with this. They look like two completely different maps at this point. Well, let's get the easy one out of the way first and talk about the one room that didn't actually change that much. That being the loom room, which used to be the office. You can definitely see the similarities between these two rooms, especially with that closet area. You can also see that the building has been extended to the west in the rework. We've overall got a lot more space in this room now. All the breachable walls have actually stayed the exact same across these two versions, except for the closet, which used to have fully breachable walls along all of its walls, even around the door frame. You can also see the movement of the kitchen hatch in this room, where it used to be more central in the floor, whilst now it's been moved all the way to the southwest corner. This window in the southeast corner never used to be breachable. Nowadays it leads to the second floor balcony, which never used to be a thing. However, there was a breachable window along the south wall all the way to the right of it, which now is not breachable in the rework. You do kind of have that hatch in the floor here now though, so it would kind of be a troll if this window was still breachable. Imagine just jumping through this window and then falling down the hatch. So mean. This window on the west wall has existed in both versions, but the outside of it is definitely different. You used to have to rappel when using this window, but now the garage has extended along, so you can just stand on the garage roof instead. Whilst this garage roof area has existed in both versions, and even these breachable walls to the closet are in the same place, the garage roof itself is quite different. You can kinda just see that it looks a bit different. There did used to be a ladder here as well, which led up to the third story roof. The third story no longer actually has an outdoor balcony though, or at least not on this side. We'll talk about this more later when we get to the third floor, but this ladder would have been about here. You can see the part where it would have led to is now actually inside the building, and on the other side of this wall is where those new stairs are. I think before we take a look at the kid's bedroom, we'll have a look at the rooms straight on from the stairs. This door frame is basically in the same place across both versions, but the room on the other side is completely different. In the rework, it leads to the blue hallway, where you can only go left from there, and it leads to a nice open area where those new stairs are. I always liked hiding in this little corner here, although this corner didn't exist in the original because this whole blue hallway didn't exist. Instead, this door actually led to the master bedroom. The master bedroom was a pretty big square room, with multiple rooms joining onto it. For a start, on the left, we had this extra little room which still counted as the master bedroom that had a big window on the west wall. Just so we can get our bearings, this window is where that new staircase is now in the rework. Then connected to this section was a little closet, which for some reason was still called the master bedroom. Come on, that's just lazy. If we break open those two walls in the loom room, we can kind of compare between the two versions where they would have come out. The ones closest to the door lead to the blue hallway in the rework, whilst in the original they lead straight to the master bedroom. Whilst the ones in the little closet area, those once again lead to the blue hallway, whilst in the original they lead to that master bedroom closet. Then beyond the blue hallway, we have the sewing room. This one is just straight up new to the rework. There wasn't anything like this room in the original, and this was all just open space outside, flying in the air pretty much. And then right in the middle of the second floor, we have the kids' room, not to be confused with the kids' bedroom, which was a room in the original in a completely different spot to this. This room is basically half of the original master bedroom and half just open air. The other half of the master bedroom is in the blue hallway. And then right next door to the kids' room, we have the bathroom. This is basically in the same spot as the original laundry room, which you could access straight from the master bedroom. These rooms don't really have any similarities at all, other than the entrance door. Pretty sure both of these were popular entry points for the attackers in both versions as well. And then joining onto the bathroom, we have the master bedroom, in a completely different spot to where the original room used to be. So where was this area in the original? Nowhere. Well, no, obviously it was somewhere, but it's really hard to say actually. I guess it would roughly be half the bathroom, half the laundry room in the original. But of course, there's literally no similarities between these areas. The original bathroom even used to have a double window on the east side. And we finally looped around now to the second floor main hallway, where this area covers the other half of the original bathroom, because this extra bit of hallway didn't exist in the original at all. And the final room on the second floor, the laundry room, which used to be the kids' bedroom. To be honest, I don't think I even went in this room once in the original. I don't remember this room being here at all. And of course, there's no similarities at all between these two rooms. I mean, it's got the basic box shape of the two rooms, I guess, but other than that, literally everything's different in here. This room is where the hatch in the ceiling is for the dining room, or where it used to be, as that hatch doesn't exist anymore in the rework. Instead, in the rework, there's a new hatch in the southeast corner on the ceiling, which leads up to the attic. This hatch, though, wasn't a thing in the original. I should also mention that even the entry doors this room's different, because it used to be along the east wall, whilst now, with that new part of the main hallway existing, it was moved to the south wall. As for the windows, they've basically switched around on the south wall. The one on the left used to be open with the one on the right closed, whilst now that one on the left is closed, but the one on the right is now a breachable door that leads to that second floor balcony. This second floor balcony then links back to the loom room. Like with the first floor, it's just a way to connect those opposite rooms next to the stairs together to give players an alternate route and save them from having to go through the main hallway. Although unlike with the first floor, this one's outside, so it's mostly just for attackers. So we already know that this second floor balcony didn't exist in the original, so was this area just air before? It actually wasn't. Or not really, at least. On the staircase linking the second floor to the third floor, there actually used to be an external door here with a very small balcony, and then a ladder going up to it from the ground outside. So this balcony is basically just a bit higher, than the modern second floor balcony, as it's halfway up the stairs. This is a really weird entry door, to be honest. Like, who puts an entry door on a staircase? No surprise though, this one is gone completely from the rework. And that's finally the second floor done. Thank God. It makes it even more confusing that both of these versions use basically the same rooms, but they're all in completely different places to where they used to be. Like, the laundry room used to be in the northeast corner, whilst now it's in the southeast corner, and then the master bedroom used to be where the kids' bedroom is, and then the kids' bedroom used to be where the laundry room is now. It's so confusing. You know what, it's fine, we're on to the third floor now, and this one will be a breeze, surely. Shit. Can I just put footage for both versions on here and call it a day? Nah, that would be too lazy. Okay, well, as always, let's start off with a room that hasn't changed as much as the others. And that would be the tractor storage, which used to just be called the storage. I'm surprised, to be honest, at how similar these two rooms are. Even some of the furniture is in a very similar spot, although some bits have moved around a little bit, considering the reworked version of the room is about 3 times bigger than the original. So yeah, there's parts over the south side that's kind of stayed the same, but the north side is completely new, considering that wasn't even part of the storage in the original. There's only one breachable window in this room, and it is indeed in the same spot that it used to be in, except for the rework it leads to the third floor balcony, which didn't exist in the original. Instead, you would have to rappel up to this window. Despite the reworked room being 3 times bigger, the original actually had 3 times the windows of the rework. In more simple terms, the original had 3 windows, basically. It also had 2 breachable windows on the west wall. I believe in the rework it would be this one and this one, probably. I mean, some of these windows have shifted around a bit. Technically, these windows along this wall aren't even in the same place at all as the original ones, as the building was extended out to the west side. The breachable walls into this room did change as well. There used to be 2 breachable walls leading into the storage right next to the stairs. These are now solid walls though. In the original, right next to the storage, we had another room called the Ballistic Mat Depot. What a mouthful. This would be the remaining part of the nowadays tractor storage. The door to it has been replaced by 2 sets of breachable walls, and originally separating these rooms was a full set of breachable walls. Technically, if we were to destroy this whole wall, it will then be the modern tractor storage. Other than that, it's still smaller because of the expansion to the west as well. Oh my god, it takes so long to destroy these walls in Old Siege. Finally, ta-da! I present you the tractor storage, but with 5 breachable windows and an external breachable wall. Yes, this room also had 2 breachable windows, one on the west and one on the north side. The one on the west being pretty much this one in the rework, and the breachable wall about where this window is actually. This is a really weird breachable wall as well because you have to rappel up to it. It literally just leads to a drop. The only other map I can think of that has something like this is Favela, or at least old Favela. I don't remember if new Favela's like that, but we'll get to that soon, don't worry. As for this north window, well, this was actually the exterior wall in the original. Although you didn't have to rappel up to this window because it led to the 3rd floor balcony. I know I said literally just 2 minutes ago that the 3rd floor balcony didn't exist in the original, but I lied. It does exist, it's just over the north side instead of the south side. Although here it's called the terrace. This floor was originally the smallest one on the map because of this balcony taking up some of the space and counting as an outdoor area. So basically this line I'm walking down right now in rework is actually where the external wall was. Everywhere I'm looking at now was either on the balcony outside or in mid-air. Because this was an external wall before, this other door that leads into the tractor storage did not exist. This was just the external wall. The door, I guess, would have been about here. And one last thing with the tractor storage before we move on from here, the hatch in the floor, which I completely forgot to mention when we were on the second floor. This hatch is right in the middle of the tractor storage and leads straight down to that loom room closet. This closet though in the original did not have a hatch in the ceiling. If it did have one, it would have been about here. Back to the balcony. This balcony also had a set of breachable walls and another window. Both of these lead into the storage corridor, where the breachable walls would be directly opposite the stairs. The storage corridor of course doesn't exist anymore though, because all of this is now just open area called the attic. There are absolutely no corridors up here unless somehow you call this a corridor. I mean, after seeing that basement downstairs being called a corridor, I don't even know anymore. Anyway, the storage corridor used to be an L shape with an external door at the end, which leads to a set of stairs. This set of stairs then connected to the laundry room and then back down to the ground, which is basically the same as in the rework, where you've got the external door leading to a set of stairs, then connecting to the bathroom instead of the laundry room, and then back down to the grounds. Wait, now that I think about it, isn't it kind of weird having an external door leading to a bathroom? Huh. These stairs are overall a bit different between both versions though. There's just a lot more space to move around on them in the rework, and the sizes overall just changed a bit because of the whole building being bigger. At the top of the stairs now though, we have two entrances instead of the one, where we've got a door and a window. Both of these lead into the attic because the attic is a massive room. The external door used to connect to the west wall though, so it would have been about here roughly in the rework. The last two rooms in the original are the only ones I really remember up on this third floor, which are the workshop and a dummy depot. Both of these had a lot of breachable walls. I mean, pretty much every single internal wall here is breachable. Even this one that overlooks the stairs, which is kind of weird, but I actually kind of like it. It's interesting. I just remember having pretty much nowhere to hide at all in this room. It was crazy. At least there was only one breachable window in this room. I mean, it would be more defendable if there was none, though. As for the dummy depot, I genuinely don't even understand the point of this room, because there was quite literally nowhere to hide. I mean, you had two windows in this room, both able to see the entire room, and there being like literally no cover at all in the room, so yeah, I don't know why you would ever want to stay in this room, to be honest. As for where these two rooms are in the rework, well, I don't think there's going to be any similarities here, to be honest, but it would obviously be this area here. In fact, this breachable window here, I believe, is basically the exact same one as the one that was in the workshop before. As for the dummy depot windows, none of those are breachable now. This one's still here but closed off, whilst the other one is just gone. It's nothingness now. And then finally, we have the new door that leads to that third floor balcony, which then connects straight back to the tractor storage. As for the ammo storage in the rework, and pretty much everything touching this north wall, it's not even worth going through this stuff, because this was miles out in midair in the original. Oh my god, we're finally done! Except we're not, we've still got the objectives to cover. Oh joy! I mean, did you actually expect any of the bomb sites to actually be the same across both versions? I guess the best way of doing these is just going top to bottom. The third floor objective on the original was the dummy depot and the storage. And oh my god, the dummy depot, man. Has there ever been a bomb site this small before? I'm gonna try and rank these bomb objectives, but I'll be honest, I don't think I actually really ever played bomb on old Hereford Base. Because when this map was a thing, it would have been when secure area and hostage were still in the ranked rotation, and I didn't like bomb back in the day. So yeah, this is literally just gonna be me guessing what the ranking used to be, I guess. I do think all four of these bomb objectives look shockingly bad though. Like, these are some of the worst bomb objectives I've ever seen in Siege. This one though, honestly I think is the worst of the worst. I don't see anything being worse than this one. There's too many entry points to the third floor here. You have the door on the staircase, you have the door that's actually on the third floor, you have the breachable wall on the third floor, and then you have the hundreds of windows along the third floor. There's nowhere to roam, there's nowhere to hide. This is just insane. Honestly, I've never seen anything like this. But if this somehow ended up being the best objective to defend, please let me know, because I would be shocked. As for where these objectives would be in the rework, the storage would of course just be in the tractor storage, whilst the dummy depot would be in the southeast corner of the attic. Imagine if the whole of the attic was plantable though. Oh my god, that would be insane. Thinking about it though, it might actually make the third floor more balanced, because that is now what we're talking about in the reworked Hereford Base. The third floor objective in the rework is the ammo storage and the tractor storage, and it is quite the opposite of old Hereford Base, where the third floor here is extremely defender sided. For such a big space, there's so little entry points for the attackers. I really don't know what they were thinking with having only one window in the tractor storage. I mean, if you compare it to the original, which technically had 5 windows and a breachable wall, having one single window for a room this big is just silly. And then there's the ammo storage, which doesn't even have a single window. It's just really weird choices for this third floor, to be honest. I love new Hereford Base, but I can admit that the third floor is just complete trash. If they do release a new rework of this map, I hope this third floor is just completely started again from scratch. If it wasn't clear already, this is easily the best objective on this reworked map, and it's not even close. Well, let's move down to the second floor now then, or I guess partially the second floor, because the next objective is on both the second floor and the first floor for some reason. That is the kids' bedroom and the dining room. I don't get why they didn't just use another second floor room for this objective, to be honest. It could have been the master bedroom and the kids' bedroom, or the office and the kids' bedroom, but instead they chose a vertical site. Okay, fair play. I mean, I don't think this site is worse than dummy depot and storage, to be honest. There's only 2 things really though that actually save this site from being the worst one for me. The hatch in the floor for a detour to the dining room, and the fact that the entire of the kids' room floor is breachable. This technically means you could get away with all players, or the majority of the players, staying on the second floor, because you could then just cover the dining room from the kids' room. Seems pretty good, huh? The big problem though is if the attackers do plant in the kids' room, because then if any players are stuck on the first floor or the basement, the only way up is from the stairs. So basically, if attackers manage to get a plant in on the kids' bedroom, you're screwed. Just game over. I love how I'm talking as well like I've actually played these objectives, because I literally haven't. I'm just imagining how these would probably play out. But I actually think this objective in particular could potentially be a really fun and interesting one to defend. And with a well-coordinated team, yes, with a well-coordinated team, I think this one actually could be the best objective on this map. I'm crazy, I know. I wouldn't even be surprised at all if this one's considered the worst one on this map, just based on the fact that it's vertical. But I really think this objective had potential. And comparing it to other vertical objectives like consulates, tellers and servers, I just don't see potential in that one like I do see with this one. Now in the rework, this bomb objective would have been the laundry room and the dining room, which would have been way worse. The floor is still breachable here in the laundry room, but it's the new prep area that would make this objective a problem, as this gives attackers another route to get in, and there's basically no way you can defend this room from above. As for the actual objective on the second floor in the rework though, we have the master bedroom and the kids room. which I would say is the third best objective in this map. It's still a really good objective to defend overall despite it being the third best. This map is overall just very defender sided. I don't really have a lot else to say on this objective though, other than the fact that I think it's slightly worse than the second best objective. Now moving down to the first floor, where the objective here in the original is the TV room and the kitchen. The kitchen's a pretty safe room to defend. The TV room is the problem. It has a breachable window in this room, and as it's on the ground floor, attackers could literally just jump in. Not only that though, it's right next to the main door. There's not really many places to hide in the TV room as well. The only way I really see this room being defendable is if you defend it from the kitchen by destroying both of these walls here. The only problem with that though is walls take a lot longer to break in Old Siege than New Siege. You can't just get out New Tachanka and just shatter the whole wall in 20 seconds. It takes a lot more time than that in Old Siege. So basically, to sum it up, I think this objective looks shit, and I'll definitely give it the third worst objective in this old map. Now in the reworked Hereford Base, this objective would be the living room and the kitchen, which I think would definitely be better than it was in the original, but I don't think it would be that good. There's not as many breachable walls between these two rooms, so the fact they're separated is quite a big problem. I think the first floor objective on this map currently is definitely better, which is the kitchen and the dining room. Straight away, I'm gonna say that this is the worst objective in the reworked Hereford Base. So you're probably thinking that I'm gonna list a bunch of negatives to this room. However, I'm not. I actually don't think this room is even that bad, to be honest. And again, that just shows how defender-sided this reworked Hereford Base is. Literally the only two bad things I could think about this room can easily be countered. First off, the fact that the rooms are separated, but you do have the new prep area that you can use to get from one room to the other. And secondly, the new window in the dining room. Attackers could just jump in and plant. However, you could easily defend this window from the piano room instead. Like, there's literally nothing wrong with this objective, to be honest. I think I am starting to see why people really don't like new Hereford Base now. Because honestly, this objective, I would say, is so much better than all four of the original bomb objectives on the old Hereford Base, by far. So now lastly, we have the basement objectives in both of these versions. For the original, we have the briefing room and the armory, which I would say is the second best objective in this original map. The problem with this one is we have a really good bomb site here, and then we have a really bad bomb site here. The armory I don't think anyone would actually plant in because this area can be so well defended. The problem though is the briefing room. It has an entry door literally going straight into it where attackers can just plant on the other side. If you manage to defend this room well and stop any plants here, you're good. If attackers manage to get down a plant, you're probably screwed at that point. I do think though if you have a well coordinated team defending this objective, you should be good. I think this room would actually be the more realistic choice as the best objective on this map, but I don't know man, I just think the dining room and kids room could be really cool. And I just want to be kinda edgy and different. In the rework, this objective would be the fermentation chamber and the workshop, which would be significantly worse than the actual basement objective we got, which is the fermentation chamber and the brewery. Overall, two really defendable sites, and they're both right next to each other so you can just break the wall out between them. This one as well I have put as the second best objective here. That's the bomb sites done, so we're going to quickly check out the secure area and hostage locations as well. I'm not going to go rank them, because I don't think anyone really cares that much about secure area and hostage anymore. And also, this video is already ridiculously long. For secure area, we had the workshop as the third floor objective, which nowadays would be the attic. In the rework though, there isn't actually an objective on the third floor. Instead, we have two objectives on the second floor, those being the loom room and kids room. The kids room though is actually the same as the master bedroom in the original, or roughly the same location at least, so these two objectives can be linked up. As for the first floor, it used to be the dining room, whilst now it's in the piano room, and for the basement it used to be the armory, which nowadays would be the fermentation chamber, whereas now in the rework, it's the barrel storage. And now we've got hostage. The third floor hostage locations across both versions are actually the same. In the original it was the storage, and in the rework it's the tractor storage. Then for the second floor, it's the master bedroom in both versions, although both of these rooms are in different places across both versions, so the master bedroom in the original would be roughly where the kids room is nowadays. Then for the first floor we have the kitchen in both versions. Easy, the kitchen's in the same location across both versions. And then for the basement, it used to be the armory, which nowadays is the brewery. In the rework though, it's in the fermentation chamber. Pretty bonkers. Oh my god, I can breathe. It's done. I am so sorry the video was this long, but I wanted to include everything in it. If you managed to survive all the way to the end of this video, you are a true legend. But even if you just watched 5 minutes of this video, you're still a true legend. But you won't know that because you're probably not listening to me right now if you only watched 5 minutes of the video. If you didn't watch the video at all though, then fuck you. I'm joking, I love you really, but you really should watch the video. Oh, so Hereford Base. Good old Hereford Base. This video really made me realise that the new Hereford Base is actually a piece of shit all along. But I still love it though, and I do want it back in ranked. Like, just so it's variety, so it's not the same 16 ranked maps over and over and over and over and over. Like, bring back freaking Tower or something even. Oh, actually maybe not that far. But you know what I mean, come on. We want variety. Or I do at least. I do have to agree with a lot of people though, that the old Hereford Base is a lot better than the new one. Yes, it was definitely less balanced than the new one, despite the new one not being very balanced either, but it was at least really fun. I'm not sure if it's really possible to even balance a map like this for ranked though. Like, Hereford Base is meant to be a vertical map, but we know how vertical maps play, and they don't usually get on very well in ranked. I am really excited though to see what they could do with this map as a rework in the future. I mean, I think the fact that it's completely wiped from the game and has been tied in with the whole Attack on Hereford event, I think it is hinting towards a rework, because they have to rebuild Hereford Base after all. And the fact that they're rebuilding it from scratch, maybe they'll have blueprints or something, but I feel like we could get a completely different map. And maybe that's for the best. It would be really cool if they at least changed it back to the theme of the original, but still have the rain, of course. Well, thank you all for watching this really long ass video anyway, and I'll see you in the next one. I promise the next one won't be this long. Oh, and this is Bartlett University actually. Uh-oh.